Hey, what's up guys? In today's video we're going to be covering second points of contact. You may recognize this fella over here, Mike. He was in our last video, an apprentice that is heading to the Kansas City Lineman Rodeo, so be sure to say hi if he's there. And the reason we're doing this video today, something that recently came down through the ranks, is all of our apprentices must cover their second points of contact when working on live secondary. Pretty common theme within the line trade, and doesn't just apply to apprentices. That's even journeyman linemen. You always want to cover your second points of contact. Traditionally, it's not as common of a worry with secondary voltages, especially where your secondary, it's typically insulated. So first thing I do want to mention is you'll hear the term putting yourself in series. When it comes to doing rubber glove work on high voltage lines, you never want to put yourself in series. So what that means is, rubber gloves on or not, you've got your hand on, let's say, a grounded conductor or a neutral, and you have your other hand on a live conductor. You are now in series between the live and the neutral. That can apply from hotline to hotline or phase to phase, or if you cut this line, have your right hand on the right hand side, left hand on the left, and it's cut in between. That current now wants to travel through your body as a path. It's not going to because you're wearing your rubber gloves. However, at that point, those rubber gloves become your last line of defense. You never rely when working on power lines on one single line of defense. There's lots of redundancies for safety, rubber gloves being one of them, and work procedures being another. When you see guys up on the lines working on high voltage primary conductors, at no point, rubber gloves or not, will you ever put yourself in series with two objects or two conductors of a different potential. Typically, you're not covering up a whole lot of stuff because, for one, it is low voltage, which can still be very dangerous. And you've kind of got a lot of room, but not really. You get a press on that hot connection, and no matter how careful you are, you've got very little clearance to that neutral conductor. There are some insulated covers. You can see that black cover on the press, which again is another barrier, another line of defense. Definitely don't want to rely on that. You can see the insulation, it's all cracked. I wouldn't even consider it an insulation at this point. So you don't want to touch any of your tools between a hot and a ground connection. You're going to get a really bad arc flash. So what we have is all of our apprentices in their rubber glove bag have this stuff right here. This is rated for 1,000 volts. We don't have any identification markers on that, so let's check our roll here. There we go. So this one's a little bit dirty. We just used the entire roll to cover up some underground lines at the previous job. But it is made by Salisbury. This is rated for 1,000 volts. The reason they chose this product, it's light, it's super malleable, not cumbersome, something easily to tuck into your rubber glove bag. Once it does get worn and dirty, of course you want to replace it. So the first thing I do want to cover is when you're using this stuff, you don't need to take a pair of scissors to cut everything. Let's just get our cut-proof gloves on here, one sec. So Mike here is just going to make a tiny little slit in the end. That's all you've got to do. And then you can easily tear a perfectly straight line in this Salisbury wire cover up. And that will tear top to bottom, left to right, and you're always going to get that perfect straight cut. A lot of times I'll tear off pieces like this to wrap around the triplex. If somebody is working on a roof, you can simply lay that out lineways. If you want to grab that, Mike. Wires coming off a guy's roof. I'm going to wrap that up just like that, tape it in place. That way it's only meant for accidental brush contact. You certainly don't want the contractor hanging out, leaning on the wire or anything. However, it does give some added protection on top of the insulated wire for any accidental contract. So that is a service that we offer at our company for free for any homeowners doing work near their home. Now, what I really want to get into here is where all of our apprentices carry this in a rubber glove bag. Let's say Mike here is hooking up a new service. So we're going to go through the whole process, simulating that this is energized and Mike's hooking up this service. So one of the first things Mike is going to do here is skin the wire. You don't want these connections too close to that tie wire, as you could energize the tie wire and leave a little surprise for the next person to come along. So you can see already here, Mike is using his class 0 1 kV rubber gloves, being careful not to make contact with the neutral with his knife. Pretty tricky to do. You can see that the metal in that knife's coming within an inch of that neutral already. So what is now required by our company, and really it's required for not just apprentices but journeymen as well, even to simply skin that off, we want to eliminate this hazard, especially when we get to this point here. So this is the new service that's going to be hooked onto this spreader. We've got an H-tap crimpet. Now when you are doing this, you want to put that service wire outside of that triangle. Let's flip that in here. You're not going to crimp it like this and eliminate your clearances even more. So you do want to have your wire on the outside. But then Mike is going to have to crimp that with this device, with the Milwaukee press here. Now don't actually crimp it yet, Mike, but we're just going to show, again, for years guys were just very careful doing this type of work. With safety culture nowadays, before doing that, we want to eliminate that second point of contact. So a good option, drop that 1000 volt cover up. You can see it easily covers right around the hot and the neutral connection. And now for any accidental contact, he's not going to create a short between the hot and the neutral. You could wrap it just around the neutral, but Mike, let's wrap that neutral up with your Salisbury cover up. Let's do just the neutral, because we're gonna have to make a connection on both of them. So it works, but yeah, pretty good job. But what we want to show here, this isn't our only option. There's a ton of options out there, and another option which I feel is a much better option, this guy right here. Now I don't really know what exactly to call that, so we found their website on my other phone, and it is Mid-Sun Group Conductor Cable Insulation. Split tubing insulation for nearly any size conductor cable, provides 20 kV phase to ground protection and can be cut to size. So this stuff is rated for 1000 volts. This stuff is rated for 20 kV, much in the same. This is super easy to cut a couple short pieces of that and throw it in your rubber glove bag as well. So let's cut a little shorter piece on that, Mike. So now let's try using that conductor cover instead, the 20 kV from Mid-Sun, I guess. Makes a lot more sense, much easier to put on, don't have to tape it in place. Really good option for many different applications, and it is a properly rated line cover right by the manufacturer that can be used as an insulated product. So Mike just pointed out there is a label on here, Mid-Sun Group. It's kind of faded here, so it does look like that is the manufacturer, Mid-Sun Group. Something else I do want to add is, most of you in the trade have always heard the term that always make first and break last with your neutral connection. If there's no load on the other end of this is going to the house and the meter is not on, or it's not yet hooked up on the mast, you can do the neutral last. Be very careful to check with your company procedures. A lot of companies require the neutral to be connected first, regardless of the situation. That way you don't become complacent and one of these days accidentally hook up the neutral last when it's feeding into a home, which can definitely damage some electronics. But real world stuff, you can do these connections first as long as it's going to be energized, but there's no load being used on those lines. If your company does require the neutral connection to be done first, line hose can still be used, but you would likely have to use some of the 1000 volt cover up to go around the crimpet and the tail that is going to be coming off. You're going to want to wrap that entire thing right up. A couple of the other guys also used from Salisbury. This is an old one, fit for the trash right now because it is extremely dirty. But this is a 36 kV line hose used for primary, for rubber glove work. Some of the guys take the old ones that failed, maybe there was a cut on the end and the other side's good, and they will cut off. See how easy that stuff goes on and off. Use this for the same concept and use that as a cover up. Bit more cumbersome. You're losing a lot of your workspace because of the size of the hose. So I really feel that this Sun something or other, can't remember the name already, Mid-Sun group, this is a really great option for cover up in those tight positions, and it's also super easy to put on. It just open it right up. You can see how easy you can open it right up, drop it over a conductor. That'll probably fit right over all three if you wanted, and you now have the entire triplex covered up. So let's just do that crimp connection now. We'll cover that neutral up. This guy here, the insulation is not damaged, and you can see how much easier and safer it is to make this connection and how little clearance Mike actually has from that neutral wire. So now we have our second hazard adhere. In order to eliminate that, we're just going to use some black burn covers for D-die connectors. These guys, pretty easy to pop on one hand. When we do our next connection here, our second point of contact to the neutral is covered. Our second point of contact to the other hot is covered. We've eliminated a ton of hazards for hooking up this new home where there's a second point of contact in very close vicinity.